Maverick star Anthony Davis will not need surgery on his left hand after getting a second opinion, and he will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. Earlier Tuesday on ESPN, they reported that AD would likely require surgery and miss a few months. However, teams are reportedly still interested in Davis in the trade market. Davis, of course, pushed back, tweeting, quote, "Y'all better stop listening to these lies on these apps," end quote. The trade deadline, I know it, is coming up on February 5th. All right, let's bring in Sam Quinn and John Gonzalez. Good to see the two of you fellas. His agent, Rich Paul, is pushing Dallas to move Anthony Davis before the deadline. Dallas says they're not going to be bullied, and AD is now sidelined with that wrist injury. So, John, what is your first reaction to this news?
Yeah, Anthony Davis was heated, Katie. Lies, he said. Lies with an exclamation point. You know, he's never been healthier, right? Sam just wrote about this, actually, and I'm sort of LOLing at Anthony Davis taking umbrage with somebody saying that he might need season-ending surgery because he's had hundreds, literally hundreds of injuries in his career. If you look at just the injuries he's had this season, it comes out, you have to unspool it like the Dead Sea Scrolls. It would roll across the floor. I mean, he'll be 33 in March, right? He's only played 20 games this season. In his time with the Mavericks, he's only played 29 out of a possible 73 total games for the Mavericks. He only played 51 combined games last season. Now we have this thing in the NBA where you need to reach a 65 game threshold to be eligible for postseason awards or for regular season awards, right? Well, he's only cleared that bar one time in the last 8 seasons. So I understand that he wasn't thrilled with the reporting here, but I guess the media should be forgiven that they got out ahead of this because he's Anthony Davis and he's constantly hurt.
Yeah, when you said he's never been healthier, I thought in my head, healthy? What is healthy when we look at AD? Let's talk about real leverage here. Davis is hurt. Dallas is 12th, 11th or 12th or so in the West, and he's staring at a massive contract extension window this summer. So, Sam, based on everything that we do know, how likely is it that AD actually gets traded before February 5th?
Well, how badly does he want that contract extension, right? Is that why Rich Paul is pushing for this? Because I don't think it would be responsible for anybody to extend Anthony Davis right now. His current contract goes through his age 34 season. Are you paying him when he's 35, 36? That seems really irresponsible given that injury history that John laid out. Already making supermax money right now. If there is a team out there that is willing to give him an extension, I'm willing to bet that Rich Paul will do everything in his power to make that trade happen. I don't know that a trade exists, which makes this sort of complicated, right? I don't know what his trade value is in a world in which we don't know when he's coming back this year, and we don't know what to expect from him moving forward because we never know what to expect from him. I think if Rich Paul had his way, the Mavericks would just trade him to whoever would take him, right? Like, is there a cap dump trade out there? Is there something like the Trae Young trade that Atlanta made with Washington? Since there isn't one out right now, I'll put it around 50-50. Somebody would have to give up value to convince Dallas to get off of him because even though he might not play again this year, the Mavericks could bring him back next year with Kyrie Irving and say, you know what? We'll get a high draft pick this year. You're going to be out. We can tank in peace. Then bring back Kyrie and AD and try to win next year. So that's the leverage for Dallas. It's not about, oh, can we generate a bidding war? It's, can anybody give us an offer that makes us believe, yeah, this makes more sense than just keeping him and trying again in a year? I think it's around 50-50. Could go either way.
Yeah, I'm with Sam here. I mean, like, it's hard for me to imagine a deal where somebody goes, oh, you know what I would like? 33 in March, Anthony Davis, who's constantly hurt and never available. And, oh, by the way, we have to pay him $54 million this season, $58 million next season. And he's got a player option on the back end for $62 million. Yeah, Rich Paul, of course he's pushing hard for a trade because he wants that next deal because he knows, like we all know, that Anthony Davis is only intermittently available, so they'd rather get money on the front end. Now, if you Sam was talking about, okay, maybe there's a cap dump situation out there. Atlanta has been one of those teams that's been linked to being interested in Anthony Davis. Maybe the Mavs go and trade for, say, expiring contracts like Kristaps Porzingis and Luke Kennard. You could get something like $42 million in expiring contracts off of that. Beyond that, I can't see why anybody would be eager and running towards the Mavericks and saying, yes, please, we'll take Anthony Davis off of your hand, given his long injury history, his age, and that odious contract.
Well, when you say it like that, John, I don't know either, but let's take a deeper dive into it. We have heard names like the Hawks, the Raptors, Bucks, even the Warriors, plus some wild Charlotte and Clippers ideas that I have seen. But, John, when you look at the fit, right, and the contracts and the timelines, which landing spot actually makes the most basketball sense, both for AD and Dallas?
Yeah, you mentioned the Hornets. I'll let Sam go with that one. That's his pet project there, and it's kind of interesting too. We've mentioned again, Atlanta is one of those situations where he's been tied to going to the Hawks. We just saw what happened with Trae Young. There was basically no trade market for him, and they had to swap him out for C.J. McCollum and Corey Crispert. I don't think it's quite that bad for Anthony Davis, but I do think that it would take some maneuvering here. Maybe it is, as I mentioned, just expiring contracts like Kristaps Porzingis and Luke Kennard, where all of a sudden the Mavs want to try to duck the tax, and they'd be happy to do that. Maybe it's a situation like the Brooklyn Nets. They have their pick this year, but they owe it to Houston next year, so they don't have any real incentive to tank next season, so maybe they take a flyer on them. I'm not sure why they would. Can I interest anybody in a Pelicans reunion? Do you want to do maybe a swap with Zion Williamson? The whole point here, Katie, and I think Sam would probably be in agreement with me here, is I hate all of these options, and I don't want, if I'm another team, any part of Anthony Davis.
Yeah, the only fit I really like is the Charlotte Hornets. I know it's out there. I know it's from left field. Just hear me out. The Hornets have Dallas's 2027 first-round pick. That makes them ideal trade partners. There are no more valuable first-round picks than your own. They're the only ones that you can control. Since the beginning of December, Charlotte has had a top 5 offense with LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, Brandon Miller. They have an offensive core they can build around moving forward. What they need is size and defense. That sounds a lot like Anthony Davis. They're obviously cheaper long-term. Con Knipple still has 3 years left on his rookie deal. If there is a team out there that is equipped to extend Anthony Davis, even though I wouldn't advise it, the Hornets would be among those teams. I think they're the one team out there that could look at this and say, it's a low enough risk move for us and a high enough reward that we could justify it. Does Toronto make some sense? Sure. They do need the talent upgrade, whether it's John Morant or Anthony Davis. We think they're going to swing for somebody because right now their ceiling just isn't high enough to justify the payroll. I've thrown out the Clippers as well, just because the Clippers have all of these expiring contracts. They could get Dallas off of the contract scot-free, and obviously they're trying to win now. They're trying to be a buyer at the deadline, because Kawhi Leonard and James Harden are in their mid-30s. Like, what else are you going to do? So there are other teams out there that maybe under the right circumstances could make sense. Charlotte is the team I have fallen in love with. There's been no real reporting. There's no substance to that. I just think it's a great fit.
So John wants nothing to do with AD at the trade deadline, and Sam's got a very interesting trade cooked up with the Charlotte Hornets. Although I will say, as a a Warriors both fan, seeing Klay Thompson go to Charlotte would actually hurt my heart. John Gonzalez, Sam Quinn, thank you for joining us. Here are the odds to win the NBA Finals in the shortest odds, according to our friends over at FanDuel. How about those Thunder going back-to-back, price at +110, followed by the Nuggets, the Spurs, the Knicks, and the Rockets.